you have that awareness where you know these are the three lanes. The track number one, uninvited, unwanted thoughts, past impressions. Track number two, is the teacher passing on the knowledge. The moment that understanding takes place in the mind, you move to the track number three. How much time it takes? No, it doesn't take any time. Now apply the same three tracks understanding with being carefree. Being carefree means what? Oh, track number one is the lane one. You don't care. But you care the track number two. You are knowing what I am saying you. You are paying attention. The moment you pay attention, the knowledge passes to the intellect. Mind realizes it. You simply slip into the lane track number three. That is what the calmness and peace is. Because it is always there. I don't see that separation. That is why I don't become carefree. I don't see that separation. And that is why I do not see that separation. And that is why track number one overpowers me and it prevents the knowledge to take place. So it's okay, let it happen. So again, understand clearly the track number one, unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. Track number two is my instructions to you. And track number three, the chains. You just open your eyes because the barking of the dog is the track number one. Unwanted, uninvited. Say in your mind mentally, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Now we are moving to the track number three by consciously understanding. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Simple words. And what is the meaning? Let everyone be happy. So this is the knowledge. This is the knowledge part. Let every meaning part. But how to understand that? Happiness is our essential nature. So you are thinking. The way the mind keeps on thinking uninvited, unwelcome thoughts, so we ask the mind to think in this direction. Why let everyone be happy? Am I passing the happiness to everyone? No. Happiness is our essential nature. Everyone is seeking happiness in the world. From mosquito to elephant to the tiger to the human beings to the viruses, they multiply in our body. Their multiplication is their joy. But that kills us is a different thing. But every living species has a supreme intelligence, from the virus to the elephant to the tiger to the human being, to move to the happiness. But why I don't see it? Because the track number one is overpowering our life. Past impression, duality, conflict, anger, hesitation, ignorance. That is why the mantra is Sarve Sante Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Santu Niramaya. So what is the meaning? Let everyone be healthy, well-being. Everyone is seeking the well-being. We discussed before that also, you touch an ant and it flees. Why? Because it wants to secure itself. It is nature. Same intelligence. We know it consciously, they do not know it. Alas, even knowing consciously, we don't do it. It's a moving from the track number 1 to 3. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. It is track number 2 from which you are listening and understanding. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Meaning, let blessing and the grace fall upon everyone. That is what the existence is doing. No, but I don't recognize it because track number 1 overpowers. Past impression, images, we have lived our life unconsciously, habitually, and instinctively. That is why the instruction, the track number 2. And that brings the result in the track number 3. Ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Let there be a freedom from the suffering for all. Why I am seeking freedom for suffering from all? I am introducing, replacing the thought process of track number 1. If I am not doing it, then those thoughts will come up again. They may become silent, but they are not transformed. They are not released. We have to weaken them. Weakening comes by knowledge, by understanding that we have 3 tracks, and you are aware of all the 3 tracks. Freedom from the suffering. For a while, look at the breath. No change in the rate and the rhythm of the breath. No change in the rate and the rhythm of the track 1 will definitely change the rate and the rhythm of your breath. Track number 1 will try to change. When it tries to change, just keep looking at it. Track number 2 is understanding. What is that understanding? That I have to do nothing. I have to do nothing. I have to simply keep watching the movement of the breath. So the result is track number 3. What is track number 3 result? Is calmness. But the moment you struggle with the track number 1, the entire practice fails. Entire practice fails. Now, how the track number 1, because it contains trillions of impressions. The mind finds the track number 1 is the real track. Why it finds the track number 1 is the real track? Because it has trillions of impressions. 1. It finds a sense of security in that track. So you are aware of that. You don't touch the track number 1. You're just looking at the breath. Breath is moving. Going in, coming out, going in, coming out, going in, coming out. Result means experiences. You may feel the experiences of calmness or relaxation or a sense of emptiness, or sometime you will feel the track number one overpowers with lot of thoughts and you forget watching the movement of the breath. No worries. Return again. Why? Three tracks are independent. You have to change the lane. That is understanding. That understanding is required in the Eastern wisdom. So I thought in the new years we will see how we can transform the mind and awaken to real self. Shanto Hum is the mantra. Shanto Hum is one word, but it has two syllables. That means I'm the peace. I'm not in peace. Who says I'm in peace? Track number one. And who says I am the peace? Track number three. What is the track number two? Is the knowledge and understanding that the teacher passes to the seeker. So, what should I do? Push the mind deep inside the cave of your heart, singing mentally Shantu Hum and stay there. See if pushing the mind with the Shantu, you said hum, and there is a kind of self-absorption. You are already on a track number three. You need not to do anything. But the moment the track number one comes back, oh, no worries. Shantu hum. In the mind you declare I am the peace and keep looking into the space. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences, bring the hands down. How do you experience?
Good.
Nothing has happened except you recognize that you are the track number 3. How? By knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
As long as the mind declares that I'm the track number 1, it has two parts. One is the thoughts and feeling and images that we experience, the fear and the insecurity, frustration, failure, pleasure, etc., etc. That is the known area of the track number 1. And the unknown area of the track number 1 is all our past impressions. They trigger anytime, they cause anxiety, they cause fear, they cause insecurity, they cause duality, they cause all the suffering in our life. Now, the track number 2 is what any master, whether it is a Buddha or Krishna or the masters of the Upanishads, they pass on the knowledge to the seeker. That is also happening in the mind. Track number 1 isn't present in the mind. Track number 2 is also present in the mind. So when it is present, when the teacher talks. So there is a difference of studying the books directly and learning from a teacher. The teacher personalizes that knowledge. How it personal? Because he has received the training from the master-disciple tradition. So he knows how to do it. You study the book, you cannot personalize. The mind will jump to the track number 1 and you'll feel bored. That is why we always say it's a traditional discipline, it's a master-disciple tradition. Now the track number 3, where the mind is doing nothing, but it realizes the real self. It realizes the peace and happiness, love and the wisdom, without doing anything. And they all are happening in the mind. Because we are not able to separate, we don't see their separation, they are in 3 lanes. That is the problem, because then the track number 1 comes, it has got trillions of impressions of all the crazy stuff, it triggers, it reacts, it blames, it complains, and it has a fear, it has a dissatisfaction, it has insecurity, it has pleasure. I'm not able to separate. What will separate? Constant listening and learning. Constant listening and learning is going to separate that. The moment you find that separation, highway is 1, we see the 3 lanes. We are 100% clear. I'm driving in the middle lane or right lane or the left lane. I'm 100% clear. So when you are 100% clear in your head, you don't need any practice. You need only an understanding. Some of your friend is talking and internally the track number 1 becomes angry. You have already separated. The knowledge says no. Why to be angry? You remain calm. Why? You have separated. Many people have the capacity to separate, not everyone. That's why we are learning this. We are understanding through the knowledge. Oh, this is what happens. The mind has three tracks. Yes. Track one, instinctive, habitual, impulsive mind. Track number two is the intellect. Track number three is the realization. I feel good. You just said, I feel calm. But that calmness and that feeling of the calmness remains for a shorter period. Why? The mind is so much habitual, it returns to the track number one. They are independent. Still, the mind returns to the track number one because of the habit, because of the impulse, because of the mind finds that I have lived that life again and again with some pleasure, with some fear, with some insecurity. That is my real home. So we fall back into the track number one and we continue to remain ignorant. We continue to remain ignorant. I think I'm making the things very clear in a different way.
Yeah.
It is again the teachings of the Gita. Track number one, unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. You see, I'm not paying attention even to the horse image behind you, but the mind captures all these images. Every thought, every feeling, every anger. Sometimes you see the people enjoy the horror movies and anger and hesitation. The mind has already captured those impressions. It will be used in future. Track number two, simple instructions by a teacher. You listen, mind moves with the knowledge. When the mind moves with the knowledge, you have to move to the track number three. There is no possibility. Until then, the people you find there seem to be very calm. They are not calm. Track number one contains all that anger, hesitation, duality, conflict. Until the realization takes place, until the awakening takes place, nothing happens before that. The mind forces us to start living with the track number one. Unwelcome, uninvited thoughts, feelings, past impressions, the memories of what we have done in the current life and the previous life, trillions of impressions. That is the reason we are repeating the same thing again and again and expecting a different result.
What is the reason?
We are repeating the same thing again and again because of the track number one, which is impulsive, which is habitual. So we are repeating the same thing again, and I become angry today, and after a few weeks again I get hesitated today over a certain thing, and I get hesitated again. And I realize that hesitation is not good because I am not able to move to the track number two and three. Knowledge, that understanding is there, that understanding is not present in the mind because track number one overpowers. No, anger is the result, blame is the result. No, I should be into anxiety and duality and a conflict. It is habitual, it is impulsive. What is impulsive? It triggers on its own without any reason. So I'm living an animal life. That is the track number one. That is why the master says, no, move to the track number two, listen, get the knowledge, understand it clearly, digest this. So when you digest the knowledge 100%, you don't worry about the track number one, whether the millions of impressions are accumulated. How come? With that knowledge and understanding, when you start living with the track number three, you weaken the impressions of track number one and ultimately they leave you.
Does the mind fluctuate throughout the day, throughout the hour, from track one to track two to track three? Does it continue to?
Because if I do not understand whether it is in the track number two and the three, it mixes up. That is what the ignorance is. We have to remove that ignorance.
Is someone who is enlightened always in track number three?
Very interesting question. And you will have a very interesting answer also. First answer, once you reach to that state, the track number one cannot overpower you. There is a total mental transformation, and the real self constantly lives reflected in the mind. Second part of the answer, because before the realization, I had accumulated millions of impressions. So they will pass on the mind, but they will not disturb you. Until all the impressions are exhausted, and that takes time. Buddha was enlightened. He went to a village. People started throwing stones at him after the talk.
Yeah.
So he realized, he realized I have to change that. It is because of the past impressions. But he was not at all affected by it. It's a part of the game.
What about people that have like past, like trauma seems to be a very popular word these days. Like people have past traumas that happen maybe when they're really young, and then now they're 25, 30, 40 years old, and they're still dealing with issues that happened to them in childhood. Like, like serious stuff, maybe like someone that was molested by a brother, just sick, very traumatic stuff. How does somebody, well, because we can't get rid of the memory. Like whatever happens to us is always with us. Like we can't just get rid of the memory.
Really? Really?
I don't believe so. I mean, I remember certain things that happened to me when I was a child that are, I feel like, are always with me. I can't get rid of it.
What food you ate last year on the same day?
No idea.
So first thing is very clear that the mind forgets.
Okay. You're right. That's a great. Okay. So far, good answer.
No, I don't know anything. It's all about teaching. The first thing that we forget. And if we do not forget, then this mind becomes crazy. We need to forget. That is an automatic mechanism. Now the next question comes, that what I do not forget. It keeps on repeating again and again. That is I'm refining your question, that I had a trauma that I don't forget, which took place at the age of maybe 10 or 15, and that is still returning to me in my mind again and again, and I get upset. I relive into that trauma in my mind, which causes me the suffering.
Yeah.
I don't forget. Means track number 1 keeps on repeating it at the subconscious and habitual level. Why it keeps on repeating habitual and the subconscious level? Because I give importance to it. There is a value attached, whether it is a social or ethical or moral or otherwise. But why the track number 2 keeps the attachment with the at the social, moral and ethical level? Because I don't know the track number 2. I can get the knowledge and jump into the track number 3. I'm not able to see these 3 lanes. I'm obsessed with that trauma. So the track number 1 keeps on that obsession all the time. If it is not all the time, the track number 1, that mind keeps on reminding you, repeating you. Why it repeats you? Because it has a social connection. For example, if you have a journey of molestation at the young age, so how the society looks at that molestation, society looks at in a different way, and that keeps you haunting your mind. You are living in a track number 1. Track number 2, if you get the right knowledge and understanding, then what happens? You jump into the track number 1, which is known as the meditative state. That meditative state weakens those impressions of the past. As you continue the journey, the time comes it are totally deleted. Now see the third answer. That will be very interesting answer. Pressure and the resources. If the pressure is more and the resources are low, you cannot achieve success. If the resources are more and the pressure is low, you feel that yes, now I can attain success. The pressure of the track number 1 is so huge.
It's so what?
It's huge. It is tremendous. And even realizing the pressure of the track number 1 is so huge, we want an instant answer. Oh, can you give me 1 hour of practice of meditation? Can you give me all the knowledge in 1 hour? I have to do a lot of other things pertaining to the track number 1. So the mind is not going to change. The resources becomes very minimum. So by listening constantly, listening and understanding moves the mind to the track number 3. First, what it does, it clears that there are 3 lanes. The moment you find that sense of separation, that is the power of discernment in the intellect. And the power of discernment takes you away from any kind of trauma and the suffering. Forget it. You don't care even. They are weakened so much. I strengthen by living in the track number 1. I weaken it by track number 2 and 3. But until I see them as a separate, lane number 1, 2, and 3, in my head, if I don't see that separation, this trauma is not going to go anywhere. Why I said so? Everyone is a human being. Whether you have undergone some kind of a trauma or whether you are living your life materially successfully, everyone has the same mind. Everyone has the same capacity. Everyone's mind can become conscious of these 3 lanes. So my mind, track number 1, does not want to be aware, does not want to get out. It repeats in that repetition. Should I tell you, which you may not agree, but I have seen a lot of people. A lot of people, especially one woman in New Jersey who came to me. By that kind of a trauma, at the deeper unconscious level, track number one enjoys remembering and recalling. Then it relates to the society, then it suffers.
Part of
Part of
me
me
understands
understands
that
that
on
on
some
some
sort
sort
of
of
intellectual
intellectual
level,
level,
that
that
like
like
maybe
maybe
sometimes
sometimes
people
people
enjoy
enjoy
their own
their own
suffering.
suffering. Yes, that is one of the main reasons those who claim that, oh, I had a trauma at my young age, and they shed the tears, you hug them, they calm down. Then they do the same thing to the second person, the third person. They are living a life demanding from the other people. Are you enjoying? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are enjoying it. That's why you repeat it. You only repeat the same thing which you enjoy. You don't repeat the thing that you have a pain. You don't want to repeat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is an internal pleasure because you gain the sympathy, you feel a sense of recognition. Look at the pity guy and a girl. So one teacher was there in New Jersey, the women teacher, and she told me molested by her father. It took me almost a year, but then I asked after a year, I asked her that, do you stop getting sympathy from other people? One, promise me. Second, the moment this idea and the thought of the trauma comes, can you move to the track number two? Remember the knowledge that you got from me? Just think about it. Just think about it and repeat it. Thinking, conscious thinking means you are contemplating and reflecting on it. And third is the result, the track number three. Find by understanding you experience the state of the calmness and the peace. Can you do it? She said, I will try. She left the teaching profession. Now she is in Sedona, enjoying her life. She calls me once in a month and she says, I am totally free. Sir, I am totally free. I enjoy my life. I don't want to tell you the name, but that is what is. So that now the pressure of the track number one is so huge. Pressure is so huge, I have to increase my resources. You can increase the resources by listening and learning these principles, repeating it again and again, contemplating and reflecting until you weaken. You don't want to move on to the track number one. Then you have a knowledge, track number two. You have a realization, the track number three. Unless you have that self-awareness that is very clear to you, you cannot treat the path of the Eastern wisdom, forget about the God and existence and the real self. So that is why a lot of people claim that they understand, but they don't move to that level. And I tell them only one thing, pressure on the resources. You have to increase the resources. How you increase the resources? You have to listen and repeat and contemplate and reflect more and more. You have to do the practice until the resources are more and pressure is low. So these resources can take over the pressure. Whether it's a trauma, whether it's a fear, whether it's insecurity, whether it's a dissatisfaction, anything, any challenges of the life. Again, I'm saying, because this mind is such a trick, it does a trick and it believes the track number one the most. We have to remove that belief. We have to move to the track number one. Here is the right knowledge. Here is the knowledge that leads me to the state of realization. That is why we have to listen, learn, contemplate, reflect, and practice. Another part is that in the track number three, we don't give too much of importance and a value. I did meditation, I feel calmness. So after many, many years, what happened? I've been doing meditation, and the time came, one day I was sitting in meditation. So there was an extraordinary awareness of the experience of the calmness and the peace. My mind said, why shouldn't I continue to live into that calmness and the peace, which did not come by any contact with anything in the world outside? And I continued staying in that posture for more than 2 hours. So that the track number three gave you the realization that it is within you. And when it is within you, how dare the track number one can cause any problem? And that was the day finished. Then it was a matter of regular practice, understanding more and more, and it is settled. Because I started enjoying that state. So it is totally settled. So people with the trauma enjoy that state internally and complain outside. So they are already divided. They live in that conflict. They don't want to change. They don't want to change. We cannot solve the problems of our life living in the track number one. What is the job of the intellect?
To discern. I don't know.
You are right, just to discern. I have an urge, so I should go to the restroom. I should not go land up into the kitchen. That is the job of an intellect. So I have a trauma. I should not increase its intensity, its frequency. I should follow another track. So that level of discernment is required. If that level of discernment is not there in any person who has the trauma, you cannot get out of the trauma. You do any kind of medication, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You have unnecessary fears, it will not work unless you discern.
Then why don't I discern more? Why don't more people? I mean, it sounds so simple. Why is it? What's the problem? I mean, it sounds so simple.
Track number one overpowers.
Yeah.
I discern means separate. So I don't recognize the track number two and I don't recognize the track number three. I say everything is track number one. That is the reason why people do not change. Why people do not want to change. And they continue to live in the emotional bondage. Mind constantly works on them, means the track number one keeps on working on them. So, very interesting fact my master told me. He said, think in this way, be very clear. One problem cannot solve the other problem. If there is a problem, you have to find a solution. Are you understanding? Track number one, uninvited thoughts, unwelcome feelings, problems. cannot solve the problem. Problem is solved by a solution. Where the problem, locus of the problem is the mind. Solution of the problem is the mind. In that mind, today's lesson, I said that there are 3 tracks in the mind. It is in the same mind. So track number 1 realizes the problem. Track number 1 wants to solve the problem. It will not be. Unless I discern and I have this knowledge, I have this understanding that this mind makes me crazy, and the same mind can make me peaceful by knowledge, by understanding, by practice, by weakening the track number 1. So I go on increasing the frequency and the intensity of the track number 1, then, oh, fear. I will go to the house and I'll have a fear. First, reach your house consciously. Reach your house. Unnecessary. This track number 1 causes the havoc in our life. So now learn the Upanishad words. 2 words are there. Track number 1 is given a name Preyas. Track number 2 is given the name Shreyas. Track number 3 is given the name Real Self. Preyas, that gives what I like, that is pleasant, that gives me the pleasure. So I will keep on hanging with the track number 1, and I claim that I am worthy of the suffering. All the instinctual programs are managed by the track number 1. It causes the emotional bondage, it causes the attachment, it causes the duality, it causes the Shreyas. By discernment, I understand what is right and good for me. To repeat, a feeling of the trauma is not good for me. What is right and good for me, I should follow that. So anytime the idea of the trauma comes from the track number 1, I invoke the knowledge and understanding. I replace that thought. I do the practice. I repeat the practice to increase the resources until I weaken and uproot the track number 1. That is what the Eastern wisdom is.
Yeah.
Who succeeds in the program? Who is a seeker? What seeker? What are the qualifications of the seeker? The first qualification is discernment, understanding. So you live at the highest level of discernment. Dispassion is natural. You need not to practice. You need not to make an effort. And when the dispassion is natural, it awakens to the 6 treasures of your mind. What are the 6 treasures? Calmness, relaxation. You have started working on the mind. Or to roughly, to say it in a very layman's language, the senses are under your control, conscious control. You go to the mall, you do not get carried away by any stuff. You check it. You understand it. No sense organ becomes, or no sense organ takes over you. Third, the world is not to blame and complain. I'm responsible for my peace and I'm responsible for my suffering. So in a sense that you remain indifferent to the world outside, that prevents you from emotional bondage. And then you get resources which is known as the endurance power. Any past impression 20, 40 years ago returns to your mind. It doesn't happen to you. They remain as a dry thought. Trauma, dry thought. so that trauma doesn't affect you. You explain. If there is an opportunity, there is a reason to explain, you explain it. But you explain with a dry thought, so that it doesn't impact you. That is what the endurance is. So once you have those four treasures, the fifth treasure is the faith. What is the faith? You have a tremendous faith in the inner peace and happiness. You don't have a belief in the track number one. It switches. Switches off, here it is switches on. And then you are able to awaken to the real self. You reach to that state of what we say, awakening.
I bought your book.
Oh, you bought my book?
Yeah, I have it over there.
Oh, we'll start with the next week. In the meantime, the first two chapters, read it a couple of times.
Okay.
And these 40 steps are